Hi first graders, it's Mrs. Misak and I'm here to share some special animals with you today. So come on and join me. These are my new baby chickens. There are 5 of them. We are hoping to get some fresh eggs from them. So I'm gonna try to pick one up for you. So here's one of them. Look how long his or her neck is. And if you kind of see his face, or her face, he has a cool design. And we won't know if they're girls or boys until they're a little bit bigger because we have to check for certain spots on their fur, and their feathers still have to grow in. That's why they're still in here. This is a heat lamp. It makes them all nice and warm. And at night, they all cuddle together to sleep, but they can't go outside until they get a little bit bigger. That's why they're still down here. They get food, they get water, yeah. But they are very noisy, but they were like this big when we got them, and now they're already this big. So they're gonna grow into a full-size chicken, each of them pretty soon. So, there's that, and I hope you all have a great day.
Hello all our first grade friends. Today I have a story to share with you that is not a Mem Fox book, but we chose it because it has a connection to Easter and to springtime. So before I start though, I want to show you something that I have. In my living room, I have this particular bowl, and inside of it, I have these beautiful painted eggs. And these eggs actually came from Russia. I have a family member that went to Russia and brought back these special eggs for me. And I keep them way high up so they don't get broken. Inside, you can see the hole. There's nothing there. They were blown out. So it's just the shell that you see. So I can keep them forever and ever. Those eggs have a connection to this story called Rechenka's Eggs by Patricia Polacco. Now, Patricia Polacco is an author who has relatives that came from Russia. So her grandmother was called Babushka. And in this story, the character, you'll hear the word babushka. It means an old grandmother in the Russian language. Now this old babushka in this story also paints eggs, just like the ones that I have, only hers, I think, are much more beautiful. You'll also notice there's a goose. That goose is an important character in this story. So let's find out what happens with the goose and the eggs and the babushka. Rechenka's Eggs by Patricia Polacco. Babushka lived alone in a dasha. That's a little house in the country. But she was known far and wide for the fine eggs that she lovingly painted. Her eggs were so beautiful that she always won first prize at the Easter festival in Moscow. Each day, Babushka would take the shell of an egg from her basket and paint it in wonderful designs, using the shapes of stars and flowers, triangles and circles. Through the long, cold winter, Babushka painted. Look at all those beautiful designs. Then one day, after a snowstorm, Babushka went outside. She could still hear the faint sound of falling snow. It was a sound like soft rain. Herds of caribou came to feed at Babushka's because the grasses they usually ate were covered with snow. "A miracle," she whispered as she fed some. "These wild things have found their way to me." So you can see by the text and by the pictures that she is a very generous and loving character, and she takes care of the animals around her. Just then, a flock of noisy geese honked loudly overhead. As they glided over the snow, one of them faltered and fell from the sky. Babushka went to where the goose lay crumpled in the snow. A hunter did this, Babushka grumbled. She carefully picked up the goose and took it back to her little house. And there's that goose that we saw on the cover. There she fed the little goose from her own table and put the goose in her best basket lined with the warmest quilt from her own bed. I shall name you a good name. One that we can both like, my little friend? She said as she patted the goose's head. How do you like Rechenka? Yes, then Rechenka it shall be. With Babushka's care, Rechenka grew stronger as each day passed. To repay her kindness, Rechenka laid an egg for breakfast every morning. And here she is with her wing bandaged. As Rechenka got better, she began to waddle around the house, exploring every little nook and cupboard and corner. One day, she jumped on top of Babushka's work table, overturning the jars of brightly colored paint that she used to color the eggs. Niet, niet, Babushka screamed as she chased the goose with a broom. No, no! The poor frightened goose flapped her wings to get away and knocked over the basket of eggs that Babushka had so lovingly painted all winter. The eggs crashed to the floor and shattered into a million pieces. They were both very sad. There was no reason now for Babushka to go to the festival. Look at her face. Oh no. And look at the goose. Look at Rechenka's face. Look at all the eggs breaking. And do you remember in the story too that Rechenka always, not Rechenka, but Babushka always won first prize at the festival because her eggs were so beautiful, and now she has none. The next morning, Babushka slowly got out of bed and she trundled over to Rechenka's basket to get her morning egg. But when she reached into the middle of the quilt, you're never going to believe this, she picked out the most brilliantly colored egg she had ever seen. It's a miracle, Babushka whispered. A miracle. Where did that egg come from? Could a goose actually lay a beautiful colored egg? She made small holes at both ends of the egg and blew the yolk and the white into a dish to cook and eat later for her breakfast. Then she held the egg up to the morning light and she marveled at its beauty. After that, every morning for 12 days, there was another egg, each more beautiful than the one that was laid the day before. Soon, Babushka had enough eggs to take to the festival in Moscow. How wonderful, she thought. A miracle has replaced the eggs that were broken. And see how she's blowing out the yolk? You put a little hole in the top and a little hole in the bottom. And I've done this at home with my own girls. It's something that you can try if you take a little pin. And remember I showed you this egg. If you look through here, I don't know if you can see it. Can you see the little hole there, right there? And there's a hole on the other side as well, see? And you can blow it out. And then you can keep your egg forever and ever. Spring is here, my little friend, Babushka said to Rechenka the morning of the festival. Soon now you will be flying off to the north with your flock. She bustled to the fire and brewed some of her most favored tea. The two shared a little saucer of tea with coolet, a sweet Easter bread. She covered each piece with a spread of cheese and butter and raisins. They savored each bit together. One for you and one for me, Babushka chanted. Da, da, my little friend. I shall sorely miss you, but you are a wild thing, and a miracle sent you to me. It would not be right to ask you to stay here with me forever. When Babushka left her little house, she took one last look at Rechenka sitting on the doorstep. She waved and then took determined steps for Moscow with her basket of her precious eggs. What do you think's going to happen? Take a minute. When Babushka comes back home, what do you think she'll find? Babushka crossed the Lebetov Valley where the caribou mothers were walking their newborn calves. A miracle, she thought. New little lives are always a miracle. She crossed the bridge over the Moskva River, and soon she could see the old buildings of Moskva. These are what the buildings look like, the older buildings in Russia look like. They're called onion-domed buildings because they kind of look like they have an onion on the top. And here she is going to the festival with her eggs. The festival was bright and exciting. There were goat carts and processions and dancers and jugglers and laughing children playing and running. Babushka showed her old friends the eggs. Her eggs are the most beautiful in all of Russia, they thought. This picture is very colorful, just like if you had gone to a carnival or a fair. Look at them. They almost glow, as if the paint is part of the shell itself. And of course, the judges picked Babushka's eggs as the most beautiful. Babushka was so happy. She beamed as she looked at the prize she had won, a new bed quilt. And look at the beautiful quilt she won. As Babushka made her way home, a honking flock of geese flew overhead. Babushka gave them a long, lingering look, and she wondered if Rechenka was one of them. When Babushka arrived home that evening, Rechenka was gone. All alone, she put the new quilt on her little bed. She brewed a cup of tea, ate the last of her coolet, and got into bed with her favorite book of poems and drifted off to sleep. She hadn't noticed Rechenka's basket. Now, if you look at that picture, you can see that Babushka is in bed reading, but look carefully at the basket that Rechenka used to sit in. What are you noticing? Do you see what I see? One last egg. But that night, Babushka awakened from a sound sleep by an ever so tiny sound. It was coming from Rechenka's basket. She hobbled closer and saw the glorious egg. But this one was different from all the others, for this egg began to quiver and move. It made tiny muffling sounds. The egg jumped and bumped and rolled and pitched in the basket. What do you think it is? I bet you guessed. What's happening? What are you noticing inside the egg? And sure enough, there was a crack, and Babushka could see the very special gift that Rechenka had left for her. A miracle, Babushka said, and this little goose remained with Babushka always. So I hope you like that story. It's one of my favorites, and I love to read it at springtime because there's so many new creatures starting to be born, and there are buds on the trees, and springtime is a beautiful time of the year. Make sure that you pick something from this story today to talk about with your family. Remember, good readers don't just stop after they're done. They find their favorite part, or they think about the author's message or a connection to their life. So pick one thing to think about, one thing to talk about, and we shall see you again tomorrow. Have a great day.